Engines scream, horns wail. Then, impact. Metal twists, glass explodes, chaos unfolds in seconds. This isn't a movie. It's real, raw, and unforgettable. Brace yourself and buckle up. At a smelting facility, a driver carefully tips waste into the molten pool. Suddenly, the molten metal bubbles and erupts, splashing searing liquid onto the vehicle. A compact car attempts to overtake another that's already passing. Losing control for a moment, it slides and slams into the vehicle in front. While turning the corner, the driver fails to notice a low barrier ahead. The car strikes it head-on, the sudden jolt shattering the calm of the street. At a busy junction, a driver fails to brake in time and rear-ends the car ahead. The impact flips the vehicle over, sending it rolling violently across the asphalt. A calm morning commute descends into chaos as a city bus collides head-on with a heavy lorry. What began as a routine drive suddenly becomes a struggle for survival. A car disregards the lowered gate and drives onto the tracks. Mere seconds later, a train hurtles through, smashing into the vehicle with devastating force. A reckless driver tries to cut someone off, pushing the limit. But the car fishtails out of control and slams straight into a roadside fence. A tractor climbs a slight incline, fighting to keep its balance. Suddenly, it leans too far and rolls backward, crashing heavily onto the ground. The driver nods off behind the wheel, the car slowly drifting over the center line. When he comes to, it's too late. A truck is bearing straight toward him, and the crash is unavoidable. The rocket lifts off with a thunderous roar, climbing steadily into the heavens. But within seconds, it pitches downward, diving nose first toward the ground, before detonating in a blazing explosion. A small car pulls out to make a turn, unaware of a speeding truck approaching. The icy road gives the truck no chance to stop, and within moments, it slams into the helpless vehicle. On the icy road, a car loses control and skids into an oncoming lorry. The impact is savage, and within seconds, the car erupts into flames. A man pours petrol on the road, chasing a dramatic effect. But when the flames catch his own car, he's forced to jump out and sprint for his life as it erupts into fire. A car speeds toward a junction as another begins to turn. With the road glazed in ice, the driver has no chance to stop, and the collision is sudden and severe. Two heavy lorries collide head-on at high speed, the impact echoing across the road. Moments later, flames erupt from the wrecks, the debris engulfed in fire. The car loses grip on the icy road as it nears the junction. Sliding out of control, it slams into the side of another vehicle, crossing the lane. A small car travels too near a heavy lorry on a crowded road. In an instant, it's pulled beneath the enormous wheels, leaving no time to respond. Four motorcyclists ride in a line, slowing as they approach traffic. But the last rider can't brake in time. One crash triggers another, and all four topple to the ground like dominoes. Here, a speeding car slams into a truck at full force, yet remarkably, everyone survived. A car is cut off in traffic and jerks sharply to avoid a crash. Instead, it smashes into a garage door, bursting straight inside. A car began smashing into everything around it, and a nearby motorist rushed over, only to find, unbelievably, that a dog was at the wheel trying to steal the car. On a frozen stretch of road, two cars race toward each other with little visibility. In an instant, they collide head-on, the brutal force of the crash echoing through the winter air. The plane descends unevenly, struggling to regain stability. Then, in a devastating instant, it slams straight into the ground with immense force. A car clips the rear wheel of a truck ahead while trying to squeeze past. The impact upsets the balance, and the massive truck topples over and slams to the ground. A driver attempts to stage a crash, swerving sharply toward a nearby car. When that fails, they reverse straight into another vehicle, unaware the whole stunt is captured on camera. An intoxicated driver swerves erratically along the roadside. Again and again, he smashes into the barriers, turning the roadway into a scene of havoc. A speeding car barrels into an intersection, unable to halt in time. It breaks through the roadside edge and slides out into an open field. A car swerves into the oncoming lane without warning. Within seconds, it crashes into approaching vehicles, turning the roadway into a scene of chaos. The Ferris wheel rotates slowly against the sky, lights shimmering in the dusk. Then flames appear on one of the gondolas, and horrified spectators record the unfolding calamity on their phones. A firefighting helicopter hovers low over the lake to scoop up water. But with a sudden loss of control, it tips and plunges straight into the water below. A car hurtles along the roadway, wobbling slightly from side to side, when it suddenly spins out and smashes into a fence, scattering fragments in every direction. A man steps into the road, oblivious to the danger ahead. The speeding lorry swerves to avoid him, but the shoulder collapses, sending the massive vehicle plunging into the river below. A car blasts through a red light, disregarding the danger. From the right, a massive truck charges into the junction, plowing into the car before rolling over it. A truck breaks down in the middle of the railway lines. Moments later, a fast-moving train slams into it, ripping through metal with irresistible force. The bridge stands solid over the running river, a picture of steadiness. Then, with a sudden rumble, its framework fails and collapses into the waters below. The driver strikes a loose tire lying on the roadway. In an instant, the car overturns with a thunderous smash. A pedestrian crosses the road away from the crosswalk, unaware of the danger. Drivers slam on their brakes over the icy surface, but instead of stopping, the cars collide with each other in a desperate attempt to avoid him. A small car loses control and swerves toward a man standing beside his vehicle. He leaps just in time, landing on the hood as the car screeches to a stop. The driver loses command as the car slides across the slick roadway, spinning into the oncoming lane and crashing head-on with an approaching vehicle. A racer pushes his car to the edge, but control slips away. The vehicle slams into a barrier at top speed, erupting in a sudden blazing explosion. As the race starts, the car veers erratically across the circuit. Moments later, white smoke billows from its engine before it slams violently into the barrier. The car strikes a deep pothole at top speed, one that acts like a ramp. In an instant, it launches into the air, soaring several meters before smashing back down onto the road. Two cars reach the junction from opposing directions. In a split second of miscalculation, they crash, flinging debris across the roadway. A compact car grazes the side of an SUV while changing lanes. The hit sends the larger vehicle tumbling over in a violent spin. A heavy lorry drifts too near the shoulder. It plows into a parked car, crushing the smaller vehicle beneath its weight. A woman steps off the sidewalk, oblivious to the oncoming fast-moving car. The motorist jerks the wheel at the last moment, only to smash into the parked car behind. The driver loses command in an abrupt turn. The vehicle veers offline and smashes straight into a pole with a brutal jolt. Traffic moves smoothly along the busy avenue when, with a sharp bang, the manhole covers rocket into the air, startling everyone nearby. At a congested junction, the bus struggles to stop in time. In a heartbeat, it collides with a compact car ahead, the impact reverberating through the crossing. A truck hauls a car on a rope, moving steadily along the bumpy road. When it strikes a hump, the towed vehicle sways violently to the side, smashing into several parked cars, leaving a wake of damage behind. A car reverses out of a parking space but veers off course. It grinds along the sidewalk railing, warping metal with each jolt. A luxury car blips its engine to flaunt its power. But the sudden surge backfires, the tires lose traction, and the car slides straight into a parked vehicle. The driver loses control and drifts onto the shoulder. Within seconds, the car skids sideways and overturns with a thunderous crash. Losing control, the car veers onto the shoulder. There, it slams into another vehicle already traveling along the edge of the road. A car cuts off a smaller vehicle, trying to force its way ahead, but karma hits quickly. It loses control, overturns, and tumbles off the roadway. At a busy junction, two vehicles cross paths. In an instant, a loud smash disrupts the flow of traffic. The bus swerves wildly as the driver struggles to regain control. Moments later, it crashes into the roadside barrier with a shuddering impact. A driver moves to overtake, pulling into the adjacent lane without checking ahead. But another car is already there, and the two collide instantly. The camera captures a startling scene, a bus engulfed in towering flames. Thick smoke billows skyward as the fire devours the vehicle within moments. A truck slammed into a bus at high speed, startling the man who was hurrying toward it. He might have been late for work, but fortune kept him outside. At the intersection, several drivers flout the rules, rushing to beat the light. Their impatience ends abruptly in a loud, chaotic pileup. A truck carrying logs takes a sharp turn too quickly. The trailer starts to fishtail, and within moments, timber spills across the roadway in a chaotic shower of debris. A delivery van veers into the oncoming lane without warning. In a split second, it crashes head-on with a small car, sending both vehicles spinning. The car loses control on the icy pavement, sliding sideways into approaching traffic. Within seconds, it crashes into a moving truck, the impact rattling the entire roadway. A speeding car races down the road too close to the vehicle ahead. In a split second, it slams into the back of an SUV, the impact echoing through the air. Two aircraft collide mid-air, spiraling out of control. Moments later, one slams into the ground and detonates in a massive fireball. At a busy junction, a fire engine speeds through with sirens wailing, but a small car cuts across its path and the two smash together in a sudden jarring crash.
Stuwa, rondo jest jego, nie?
Patrz, dzwon,
Patrz!
dzwon!
At a snowy junction, two cars approach the crossing. One fails to brake in time and skids straight into the other, causing a cold, crunching crash. The car slides over a sheet of ice, its tires losing all traction. A moment later, it pirouettes across the center line and crashes head-on with an approaching vehicle. A truck drives beneath a bridge, misjudging its clearance. The roof scrapes the underside, sending bits of concrete crumbling down from above. The rocket lights and begins its climb, optimism rising with it. But within seconds, a thunderous blast devastates the pad, signaling a disastrous failure. The driver nods off for just a moment. That moment is enough. The car smashes into a truck's rear wheel and overturns violently. A passing van drives onto the railway crossing without noticing the oncoming train. Within seconds, it's hit by the speeding train in a powerful, unstoppable crash. A car rockets through a puddle, soaking a passing cyclist in muddy water. But karma hits fast. Moments later, the driver loses control and skids off the road. A gasoline tanker drifts onto the shoulder as the driver nods off. It slams into a fence, and within seconds, the rear tank flips and detonates in a fiery blast witnessed by passing cars. A sudden halt on a crowded road sets off a domino effect. 3 vehicles are wrecked in the pileup, while the at-fault driver speeds off without a backward glance. A dump truck dumps tons of soil into a pit, the ground trembling beneath it. But the weight shifts abruptly, and the entire truck pitches forward, plunging into the hole along with its load. 3 motorcyclists wait at a red light, chatting and checking a friend's bike. One jokingly twists the throttle, and in an instant, the motorcycle lunges forward, flipping over with its startled rider. As the truck rumbles down the road, a hefty icicle snaps off its roof. In an instant, it crashes onto a passing car, a chilling reminder of hidden winter hazards. The plane wavers in the air, struggling to keep its heading. Moments later, it plunges to the ground, sending a vast cloud of smoke billowing skyward. Trying to outrun the police, the driver slams into another vehicle. Within seconds, he leaps out and bolts on foot, leaving turmoil behind. Losing control, the compact car veers onto the shoulder. Within seconds, it crashes into a passing truck, the impact echoing across the roadway. Two cars end up in a strange crash, one teetering on top of the other's bonnet. When the lower car backs up, the one above slams down with a loud thud. A small courier van moves steadily down the crowded street. Then, moments later, it detonates without warning, transforming the routine drive into turmoil. A race car rockets down the circuit at blistering speed before losing control. It pirouettes violently, cartwheeling across the surface in a haze of dust and twisted metal. The small car loses grip on the icy road, veering erratically from side to side. A heartbeat later, it slides into opposing traffic, crashing head-on with another vehicle. A Formula One driver charges into the bend, edging the limits of grip. Suddenly, the car loops around, crashes, and erupts in fire as marshals sprint toward the scene. The small car fishtails out of control on the slick road. It slides straight into a parked truck, the impact reverberating through the quiet street. Two heavy lorries collide with a thunderous impact. Moments later, one of them ignites, sending thick smoke billowing into the sky. A heavy lorry loses control on the icy road, swerving across the center line. In a split second, it crashes head-on into another truck coming from the opposite direction. A small car cuts sharply in front of a truck, forcing the driver to swerve left. The truck smashes into another alongside it, while the reckless car speeds away from the scene. A car makes an unlawful turn, forcing the truck behind it to swerve hard. The truck plows into cars waiting at the light before overturning, a single reckless act spiraling into a full-blown calamity. A car carrier lorry hauling several vehicles loses balance on the road. Within moments, it tips over, sending the loaded cars tumbling across the asphalt. An intoxicated driver raced down the road, smashing into everything in his way. After parking, he strolled off as if nothing occurred, but officers soon apprehended him. A truck loaded with logs moves steadily down the road. Suddenly, another truck slams into its rear, the impact sending logs scattering across the highway. The vessel glides calmly over the water, its occupants at ease and unsuspecting. Suddenly, fire breaks out on deck, and the crew scrambles frantically to extinguish the blaze. The camera sweeps across a tranquil horizon. In the distance, a colossal fireball blossoms, climbing into the sky like a blazing mushroom cloud. The small car skids across the icy road, spinning out of control. Within moments, it slides into the opposite lane and crashes into an oncoming vehicle. A heavy lorry stalls in the middle of the level crossing. Moments later, a fast-moving train rams into it, ripping through the metal in a brutal collision. Roadside poles came crashing down onto the passing vehicles, but thankfully no one was hurt.
Wiesz, to na to samo wychodzi, nie? Ale to wiesz, to na chuj tu, wiesz, to nie musimy za pośrednika płacić, czyli nie musimy im płacić, wiesz, żebyśmy mieli tylko...
Two cars approach the junction from opposite directions. What looks like a routine turn turns into chaos as they smash head-on in a split second. A small car smashes into a stationary vehicle at top speed. The force of the blow flips it over, leaving it upside down on the roadway. Two cars charge toward each other on a snowy road, visibility fading in the winter haze. A moment later, they collide head-on, the force of impact scattering debris across the frozen ground. A fleeing driver races through the pursuit, desperate to get away. But a sharp turn sends the car skidding out of control, crashing into the bridge's support beams with devastating force. A small car loses traction on the ice, sliding sideways with no control. Moments later, it slips off the road and comes to a stop on the snowy shoulder. Two cars enter the junction at the same moment, a split-second misjudgment, and they collide in the middle of the crossing. A car stalls on the railway tracks, its driver paralyzed by fear. Just in time, another driver rushes over with a tow rope and hauls the vehicle to safety moments before calamity. A car pulls out to overtake on a sharp bend, the driver confident for just a moment too long. Suddenly, the vehicle skids out of control, overturns, and crashes onto the roadside. At a busy junction, one error triggers chaos. 5 cars crash in a massive chain reaction, turning the crossing into a scene of wreckage. Security camera footage shows an ordinary shift at the factory when, without warning, a fierce inferno erupts, engulfing the building in mere moments. A motorcyclist rides too close to the riverbank. At the last moment, his friend leaps off, but the bike and its rider plunge straight into the water. The driver brakes hard without warning, leaving the car behind no time to respond. Forced to swerve into the oncoming lane, the trailing vehicle collides head-on with another car. A heavy truck rolls forward uncontrollably, smashing into another parked lorry. The driver standing nearby narrowly dodges being struck. Sparks flicker softly along the overhead wiring. Moments later, the electrics flare into flame, sending fire racing across the ceiling panels. A compact car pulls out to pass, misjudging the gap ahead. In an instant, it crashes head-on with an oncoming lorry. The small car slips on the icy road, spinning out of control. In a split second, it smashes into an oncoming vehicle, a brief loss of grip turning into a serious crash. The car ahead begins to weave unpredictably. Moments later, the driver behind can't react in time, and a sudden crash ensues. A truck loaded with bricks was traveling in the opposite lane when one flew off and smashed into a car's windshield. Fortunately, the driver walked away with just a fright. An SUV abruptly changes lanes without indicating. The driver behind swerves to avoid it and ends up crashing straight into a roadside pole. An SUV speeds along the shoulder, kicking up dust as it goes. Suddenly, a fence appears ahead. The vehicle slams into it and rebounds into the air from the impact. A large cargo truck is parked at the shoulder, smoke slowly lifting from its bonnet as bystanders take out their phones, filming in shock while flames start to spread. truck tries to clear the tracks as the barrier begins to lower. Just moments later, a fast-moving train slams into its rear, ripping through the trailer in a violent impact. As a moose darts across the icy road, the bus driver swerves to avoid it. The massive vehicle skids uncontrollably, sliding sideways over the frozen surface. Crazy crashes, epic saves. Don't blink. Like and subscribe for more jaw-dropping moments.